When people come in with head injuries, families will always ask you, what's the future look like? You're stood at the end of the bed and you're going, I can't say for certain. You never know how someone is going to recover and whether or not someone will wake up. And that's one of the hardest parts of the job, the uncertainty that you have to relate to relatives.
Okay, watch your back, please. Watch your back. Okay, you are anaesthetist.
Hi. Is that what I think it is, a push bike helmet? Scooter.
Consultant Sharon is in charge of all major trauma patients arriving in resus today. She'll be supported by Dr. Matt.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
This is Max, who is on a scooter in an indoor skateboard park, and he was at the top of a half pipe, which apparently is 12 foot high, and he was seen to land on his face forward, wearing a helmet. He was seen on the CCTV to remain motionless for about 30 seconds, but then he started moving and becoming quite agitated. The crew on scene believe he may have had some periods of apnea, though not witnessed by us. On our arrival, he had a GCS of 7 with a motor score of 4. His pupils were equal, although not that very reactive. He's got an obvious mid-face fracture, probably the maxilla. He had an RSI, grade 1 intubation, 2 IV cannulas, and we brought him straight to you.
Air entry bilaterally. I'm going to listen to the size now.
Can you book me a head and neck CT? We'll do a chest and pelvis X-ray, a plain X-ray.
Head injuries can be so devastating. I've seen people die from falling from their own height. You worry about whether or not there's blood inside the brain or any kind of significant force which could cause a traumatic brain injury.
We've got a young man who was skateboarding and fell off, and he was seen to fall on his face and wasn't moving, and then started to move again, so we don't know how long he was apneic. He definitely needs a head to pelvis CT.
Not that cold.
Well, he's fallen about 14 feet onto concrete, so he's probably going quite fast. He's got the mechanism of injury. All right.
The impact to Max's brain is similar to the effects of being hit in the face at over 20 miles an hour.
You never really know what's going on inside their head. And because you've got such a confined space, the amount of force and the amount of injuries that you can sustain in someone's skull, you're racing against the clock because their brain is swelling inside their head and something needs to be done.
I remember looking forward to, there was a game of football on the telly I wanted to watch at 4 o'clock. Tracy was doing roast dinner. So perfect Sunday, really. I was going to go and pick him up from the skate park. And as I was driving down, I got a phone call from Tracy saying that Max had had an accident. I didn't panic straight away because Max was always falling off his scooter and, you know, getting the odd cut and bruise here, there and everywhere. So, and I knew that his aunties and that were at the skate park because it was a nephew's birthday party.
Yep. Well, the fentanyl was there somewhere because we had to get the CDs out. Fentanyl.
I went in, the paramedics were rushing about. It's like slow motion. All the shouting and that was like echoing in my ears and that. And I looked round, everyone just sort of, everyone was in shock. I remember saying to Tracy's niece, don't let Tracy in here, don't let Tracy in here.
I always wanted a boy. He was a 90-mile-an-hour baby from the start, really. He wouldn't go anywhere without a football in his pram or his pushchair. The first day he rode a bike without any stabilisers on, the first thing he wanted to do, he was 4 years old, is to go to the ramps. It wasn't good enough in the garden or on a flat piece of ground. He wanted to go somewhere where there was bumps. know, he's had the normal sort of bumps and bruises. I didn't want to stop him doing things he wanted to do. I didn't want him to sit in front of a PlayStation or, you know, sit indoors. I never wanted that for him. I tried to protect him as much as I could, but, you know, sometimes you can't. You just can't do it.
He was skateboarding and a sort of big U shape from what I can understand. And he went up on his skateboard and then people saw him. Next thing, he was on the ground and he was face down and he wasn't moving.
When I walked into the skate park, I could sense that it was very bad. I could see the paramedics who had already got there, and I could see one of them was visibly shaking. And I thought, we're in big trouble here. I wanted to sort of give him a cuddle, but he was in no state. He was sort of screaming out. It was horrific. I then sort of ran round the corner almost and was just completely in shock. I was crying, I was screaming. I felt ill. I didn't know what to do with myself, really. And the next minute I heard them say, the air ambulance is on the way. I went outside and was very sick. Just the worst words you could ever hear is that your child's going to be airlifted somewhere.
Okay. Hi, I'm Dominic. I'm one of the nurses. I've been looking after your son since he came in. Come and have a little look. Now, he does have a tube in his throat that's breathing for him, okay? And he has got lots of
Max's parents have been waiting whilst he's stabilised.
Okay.
It's been over 3 hours since they last saw him.
I was terrified to see him. I was scared. I couldn't sort of remember how bad the facial injuries were. I just wanted him to be alive. And that's all they could do, was keep him alive. He was in that bad a condition.
Initial results show the start of a life-threatening bleed on Max's brain. He'll be taken to intensive care, where the next 12 hours will determine whether he needs emergency neurosurgery.
When people come in with head injuries, families will always ask you, what's the future look like? You're stood at the end of the bed and you're going, I can't say for certain. You never know how someone is going to recover and whether or not someone will wake up. And that's one of the hardest parts of the job, the uncertainty that you have to relate to relatives.
We slept in the waiting room for 2 nights. It even felt weird just walking outside the hospital for a breath of fresh air or something. We just wanted to stay where he was.
I knew we'd just have to deal with it. We would deal with it. It wouldn't matter. You know, he would have the best life he could have. However he went home, he would come home and we would have to deal with that.
Are you waking up today? Is today the day? Hey? Is today the day? Good.
There you go.
Hiya.
All right, mate.
Hiya. How are you? How are you? Mum's here.
It was like giving birth again. It was almost that same feeling that, you know, you're so worried that you've lost him and that you don't know what you're going to get from him. But for him just to wake up and recognise Steve and I was the best thing that could have happened.
The first thing I remember is learning to walk again. I remember going out into the ward. I saw my girlfriend Megan, my sister Michaela. When I saw that, I was like, started crying. I was like, oh my God. The first date I can remember was my girlfriend's birthday. I didn't even know it before.